How's it going, everyone? So we got our guest, Mark Evans here. Welcome, welcome, Mark. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Frank, for having me, my man.
Oh, no, my pleasure, man. I know you're very busy. You giving us the time, and it's really a pleasure to have you here on the Wholeflips podcast.
Definitely excited to be here, man. What's the goal today? Share some good
Well,
stuff.
today it's a lot of value, motivation. Talk about you as a pioneer in the industry. I've been following you for years, man. Ever since I started Periscope. And you've been in wholesaling for a while. So let's start off with a little bit about yourself. What were
Okay.
you doing before real estate? A little bit of background about yourself so the guys know, those who don't know you, they get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, what I was doing before I started real estate is pick my nose and jerk it off in my mom and dad's house in my bedroom. I was 18 years old. I started in real estate at 18. So
Oh,
I've been doing this for, literally I'm 41 now. So this is all I've done my entire life. I've been in business. I've never had a real job. If I don't kill it, I don't eat. So I
okay.
started off small town Ohio, and like either grow up and you work at the mill, work in the field, or you do construction. And I grew up doing construction with my dad my whole life. So you can hear me, right, Frank?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I started doing all that, and graduated high school. Barely graduated high school. The 1.8. Knew college wasn't my path. Wanted to figure out how to make money without going to work for anybody. And construction, seamless gutters, and started doing all that. And I met a guy that I was doing work for, and he's pulling up in a Porsche, smoking cigars every day, paying me with cash. I'm like, how do you do that? He's like, I'm a real estate investor. I'm like, that's what I want to be. Saw an infomercial, went to the infomercial at 18 years old. Saw the guy make a call, close the deal in front of the room. There were 65 people in the room. Most people were skeptics. I'm like, if he can do it, why can't I? And I started doing it. That's what I started doing. So that's the short version of a long 23-year story.
That's crazy. You see, that's good because I didn't know you've been in real estate for your whole life, pretty much ever since you were 18. You said, so
Yep.
that's great, man. That's definitely good. It's either go to construction, do farming, or do something different, right?
Yep.
Did you ever do that type of job,
No,
construction?
I mean, listen, where I grew up, if you don't have calluses on your hand, you're a pussy. You don't work.
Oh, okay.
So, if you're not a farmer, you're lazy. If you're not a construction guy, you're lazy. If you're not at the mill working, you're lazy. Like, this is the magician versus mule thing I always talk about. Where I come from, we are the best mules in the world. You either work your ass off or you get kicked out of the family. So
Okay.
the difference is the mule, like a mule either dies or quits. There's no way out. So
Yeah.
I was like a magician at 10 years old. I was always kind of entrepreneurial, 8, 7, 10, whatever. Like, either from yard selling, lemonade stands, selling my sister's Barbie dolls in fifth grade. I mean, I was doing all kinds of stuff. So what I realized is everyone's like, Mark, if you work so hard trying not to work. The difference is I was making more money than them, and I wasn't necessarily doing the work, but I was doing different types of work. So people didn't understand the kind of work I was doing. I was just trying to expand my revenue by just by leveraging my unique ability.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, that's very good. Did your family ever doubt you as well? The people who said,
I mean,
that.
listen, dude, people are still doubting me. That's what drives me every day, though. And if they're not doubting you, you're not doing enough. I doubt myself sometimes. Like we're going into so many bigger levels. It's like once you get to 10 million a year, you're like, how do I get to 50 million a year? And then you hit a bigger number. You're like, shit, I've been playing so small these years. Why am I not dreaming bigger? So I doubt myself often. I think it's probably one of the biggest mechanisms we have to protect our ego. I know a lot of people watching this or listening to this, but oh no, man, I dream so big. Most people aren't dreaming at all, dude. They're just barely surviving.
Where does that motivation or that come from? Wanting to do bigger things. How do you think bigger? If that makes sense.
Help more people.
Help more people.
Dude, I'm so focused. Most people are focused on helping themselves. I'm way past that stage of my life. I'm trying to figure out how to help the world. Some people, you can help yourself, help your family, help your village, or help the world. Way different actions for each one of those strategies.
Let's touch up a little bit on that. You said something very key. Let's say somebody's running a wholesaling business, and when do you think it's best for somebody? I mean, when do you think it's time for somebody to say, you know what? I know I've been doing this for so long. It's time to take it to the next level, which is help people.
Well, define a wholesaling business. I think most of the people listening to this think they have a business and they don't. If you can't leave your company for 30 days and it doesn't deplete, you don't have a business. You have a high-paying job and you work for a psycho yourself, right? So I think we got to clarify. I think a lot of people throw a lot of terms around like, dude, I own a wholesaling business. Dude, you don't own a wholesale. You own a job. Let's just get that straight. Even though you make decent money and you can ball around, tell your friends you're balling, but the truth is, reality is, a business is an infrastructure, has a top-down model. There's a CEO. There's a day-to-day implementer. That may be you of both positions, and then you're going to have a staff. You're going to have people implementing marketing, implementing all your calls from in and out. I mean, it's a whole model. So I think you got to establish business first. And one thing I wish I'd have learned, Frank, is that I was a business owner, never a real estate guy. For some reason, we think real estate's all about being a real estate investor, whatever the hell that means. Real estate's my product, just like a water bottle is to a water company. They don't go around saying, I'm a water bottle investor. No, you sell. I sell real estate. We buy real estate. Like, that's what we do. That's our product. It's not necessarily I'm an investor, even though I am in different things. But like, we got to establish that. But I think at the end of the day, man, I think, you have to start asking yourself, what does your business look like? And if you're asking that, what would a business look like, Frank, that you're talking about? So I can help it.
A business, let's say somebody who has, like you just mentioned, a branch manager, transaction coordinator, acquisitions, disposition, and their virtual assistants.
And the question is what?
Oh, the question is like, when do you think it's, because there's a lot of people jumping into the industry, becoming mentors and selling courses. When do you think they should be jumping into that industry or no?
God, no. No, dude. Like, here's the thing is first of all, identify what you want the thing to do for you. Real estate investing, to me, like my real estate company, is a cash flow business only. It is not a sellable business. Like, I can't go and build this. I have other companies I own. I'm involved in 16 companies. My other companies would outsell my real estate company by far, almost all of them, right? Because there's a multiplier effect on the sell versus EBITDA. So real estate, if the house is worth $100,000, the max I could sell is for $100,000, period. Yeah. And my businesses could make $1 million a year. I might be able to sell it for $7 million. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, all you guys are working hard, busting your ass to get a couple dollars here and there, and you're killing the game. But like, use it for cash. Take that cash instead of buying the Lambo, the Ferraris, do all that. That stuff's fun, whatever. But like, have enough money where you're actually building something in a real business that is scalable and exitable, where you can exit for massive revenue.
That's great advice.
That's, to me, that's where I'm at. Like, real estate, to me, I'm not in love with real estate. I don't care about doors and houses and all that stuff. I don't get a hard on with any of that stuff. I get excited about real business building. Real estate just happens to be one of the paths I grew in because it's the only thing I knew. But knowing what I know now, I would just be building businesses that are good exit strategies.
That is very key, what you just said there. You start off, you think you have a business, you're just a high-paying, you have a high-paying job. So you're dropping a lot of great information right there. So what would you suggest? Let's say you're getting some cash. What would you suggest our listeners to invest in? What direction should they go? What things, three businesses or three ideas? What would you suggest?
Well, I don't know about three businesses or three ideas, because I think we all have ideas. I don't think ideas are any of our problems listening to this. I think execution of ideas is where the rubber meets the road. That's where real opportunity hits. Number one, I'd always be investing in myself. I'd be investing in masterminds, high-level masterminds, not some, $15K a year thing that is just kind of high five and making everyone feel good. I'm talking like real high-level business style mastermind. Not specific either. If I was in the truth is, what changed my life in real estate business investing, I stopped going to real estate events. I started going to business building events. Okay. Business building events. They talk about way different things, guys, by the way. We're not talking about, hey, what's the cheapest, best CRM? Dude, no one cares about that. What they're asking is, what's the proper exit strategy? What's the best EBITDA? Who's the best broker? Who's the best guy to go here for this and that? Like, you got to get around business people that are doing big things. And, I call this king of the dipshits. A lot of these masterminds are king of the dipshits. The main guys may be making $100,000 more a year than everyone else, if that. Maybe not even that. But what they're doing is and again, there's nothing, it's not like the end of the world, but like, you have to know what you're using these rooms for. And I think you got to get in business building rooms for yourself. You got to understand different terminology. what got you to where you're at isn't going to get you to where you want to go, right, Frank? So you got to expand your terminology. You got to expand your horizons of what's even possible. Typically what I see is a lot of people, we're just mules. We're human. Our human nature mules us out. We're going to mule into the business. We're going to try to figure out how to do everything before we hand off anything. Therefore, we can never step back and look at 30,000 feet view, even though we say we do, because we just dive in. We see a problem, we dive into it, as opposed to hire someone to do the how. So what we need to do is, one, invest in ourselves. Two, invest in businesses that are very scalable. Real estate is a scalable issue. There's scalable issues in wholesaling. It's a human business, period. There's no way around it. And yes, you can use email and technology and stuff. It's made it a little bit easier. But there are caps in marketplaces, right, Frank? I see a lot of, and you don't have to believe me, guys. You're going to go down this path, all of you, because you won't hear what I'm saying. But each market is going to be capable of $100,000 to $300,000 a month to extract in that cash market. No more, no less. Like you're gonna scale up. Yes, you'll have a lot more people on your team, and you're at meetings. You're like, yo, man, I have 50 employees, and that means nothing, by the way. What did you net? That's all anybody really cares about. But there's scalable issues with real estate, right? And especially if you're taking down the deals, which we do in our company, we take down deals. So we're a cash heavy business all the time. You're moving many millions of dollars a week around.
Yeah.
So I think, Frank, just understanding what business you're in and just being real with yourself. Unique Ability 2.0 by Dan Solomon's a good book to read on this kind of stuff, but just identifying what you're great at so you can expand more on it.
Okay. You could have said it any better. Yeah. You have a lot of knowledge, where to go into business that you can scale, businesses that are, and start hanging around with people who you're going to pretty much that know how to build businesses, right? It's not just real estate. And you just said it, really well. You go to some of these meetups and people are just trying to figure out what's the best one. They're so stuck on those things that there's bigger things out there. There's more money out there to be made.
It's everywhere. Yeah, I mean, if you're a wholesaler, and or an investor, period, and you're looking for money, why are you going to the same pond where everyone else is fishing? Go to wine tasting. Go to like high-end marketplaces where people are doing events. They have access to many millions of dollars, and no one's hitting them up. Not 40 people setting them up with the next best deal. You're casually having conversations. Learn how to network the proper way. That's a whole nother podcast show for sure. But you got to come with value. Most of these guys are takers, man, of the market. They're not givers. That's the biggest problem I see, honestly, Frank. A lot of people are like, oh, there's so many wholesalers. There's so many wholesalers, but there's very few good wholesalers. It's a way different animal.
That's correct. Yeah, and let's touch up on wholesaling too. I know I've been following you for years. Like I mentioned, Periscope, way back. I remember one time somebody asked you on your Periscope Live, they said, hey, Mark, what happens if the market crashes? And you said this very clearly. Shit, I want the market to crash.
Exactly.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, listen, when the market crashes, it's always taking the stairs up and the elevator down, right? So when the market crashes, the strong will survive. And if you know how to invest, there's always a buying and selling market no matter what's going on in the marketplace. You have to understand how marketing works and how greed works. Greed works. Like people want to buy at discounts. The truth is, when the market does correct this time, there will be more buyers than sellers, I believe, because people know how the market corrected last time.
Yeah.
Frank, everyone you talk to said, I wish I would have bought more when the market shifted. Everyone. There's not one real investor that would ever say anything different. So why didn't they? Because they were scared. And they didn't have any market conditions to show them what would happen, even though we all know it's going to go back up. Yeah. So ultimately what happens when this market shifts down, there's going to be a portion of people that will buy and they're going to do very, very well. And I'm excited for it.
What would you suggest for these investors to do when the market goes down?
First of all, you never wait till the market goes down. You start doing it now. And what that is start connecting with prospects. Stop being transactional, start being relationship. The truth is most of these guys, Frank, are whores. They're all whores. They're just trying to sell, sell, sell. How do you know? Every email you get, buy my house, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, buy my house. They never say, hey, what's going on, man? Hope all's well. Anyways, here's a great resource for you to help you grow your business. Hey, what's the top 3 questions you have? I can help you grow your, there's no value. It's all taking. So start digging your well before you're thirsty. The truth is most people, the good news is when the market does shift, 90% of these clowns in this game will be out of the game for sure. That's what excites me even more than making money. There's a lot of dipshits in the game, which is to be accepted.
Yeah, no, you're completely right about what you just said. People are just reaching out. I get texts all the time, new phone numbers. Hey, I got this deal. I don't even know who they are because they've never called me. Exactly. And I don't even open the text, tell you the truth. I never receive a call, so I just, completely blow it off. So that's definitely good. I mean, build relationships right now, start working it, so when that time happens, what are they going to do with those relationships they built?
Well, you're just nurturing them. You're extracting them. Real buyers have to buy. Guys, we're investors. If you don't buy, you can't sell. If you can't buy and you can't sell, guess what? You make no money. That's what investing is. So there's always a buyer and seller at all times. The question is, where's the price point at? Just like stocks, it's the same gig. So again, it's just, same thing with, a book. A book has a price for today and what it's worth tomorrow. People will wholesale books. People will retail book. I mean, again, this is business 101 though. This is not about real estate. For some reason, hung up like this is real estate. No, it's business. Wholesaling is a simple business model that has a middleman in between a deal to be able to make money. That's all their job is to do. And the way to do that is by relationships, no more, no less. Building relationships. You can push the sellers or the buyers as much as you want, but if that relationship's not there, it's just not going to happen. You're very right. You're very right. You mind dipping a little bit into your do you still run a wholesaling business? We're more. I've never really had a classified wholesale business like most people would think. Okay. We do wholesale deals, but 99% of the deals we close. So we close deals. We don't wholesale like the conventional wholesale model just because I have a real team. The reason is when you wholesale a deal, there's always a thing called title issues. We all know that. And the more volume you do, there's going to be title issues. So we have a dispo team and an acquisitions team. The problem is if you do conventional wholesaling, when the dispo team wholesales it out for a fee, say 10 grand, and it gets to closing and it can't close because there's title issues, that kicks back to the owner of the company, i.e. me for this example. I have to pay that dispo guy because they did their job. We didn't. We didn't have clear and free title before we pushed it over to them. So instead of going through that whole thing, I'm all about not having conversations as opposed to having them. Like, why didn't that close? So we close everything prior before it gets to dispo marketplace. Okay. You use your own cash, or did you build a capital fund where you take down both? All of the above, dude. Like anybody tells you any different, they're lying. It's all of the above. You got to. I mean, we're moving millions of dollars a week, so you have internal cash, you have private money cash, and everything else. That's amazing, man. That's amazing. How do you dispo these deals? How do you send them the same way as the rest of the guys, emails, texts, or do you list them on the market? Do you fix them up? All of the above. All of the above. You still doing turnkey ready? No, I hate it. It's the worst business in the world, man. Why was that? Well, it wasn't. It is now. The reason is because everyone's a turnkey investor, right? So we got to remember not everyone's a turnkey real investor. I buy and sell differently, and I can make decisions a little bit faster than the average investor. So what happens is if I sell to you, Frank, and you've never done a deal, this is your last 100 grand and you get a hot water tank issue 3 years down the road. You're like, Evans, you're the devil. You sold me a house I didn't know it needed a hot water tank 3 years from now. Yeah. So it's just a pain in the ass. Again, it's Mickey Mouse profits for where we're at today in today's market. I got out of that market almost 2 years ago. People still know us as the turnkey space because we were pushing a lot of volume on that. But you got to remember, my average product we were selling was 35 to 50. That same product's selling for 70 to 100 now. So those markets, those profit margins are being squeezed out. Expectations are out the roof. And people, the problem is you got clowns on the ground lying to people, telling them they'll guarantee rents, this and that. You just can't do that because we're not in control of management. We don't control that side of it. So, and that's a whole other side of the business too, management. It's tough. Yeah, no, definitely, man. All those numbers are fake. You have to run your own numbers. You just see these numbers. Cap rates are not what they say. That the expenses is just fake numbers that they are. Well, listen, I don't know if they're fake or not. I just think it's easy to write it down. It's hard to manage it. Yeah. So I'm more of the model of set the expectations proper. It doesn't sell as many, but it also won't piss off as many people. And again, like I said, it's more Mickey Mouse stuff for us because these people get capped out, they get tapped out, they get stressed out. They're like, this isn't a good deal anymore. The good news is everyone that bought from us when we were selling a lot of volume 5-6 years ago, I mean, they tripled or 4 times their money, on the sell, not counting the 20-30% of revenue they're making per year on their money too. So now the same cap rates, we're selling 15 to 20% minimum. Now they might be 6%, 8% on paper. This isn't realized. So this is on paper ROI.
Oh, that's great, man. You definitely have a lot of knowledge. You've been, you're way past, based on what you're telling me right now, you're way past, the whole wholesaling. You're just different levels. I've talked to you on the phone, different. You're with media people. You're different businesses, right? You mind talking about the businesses that you own right now? And
no, I don't mind at all. Which one do you want to talk about?
Which ones do you have? Or let's go back. Let me do this. So let's say someone's in the wholesaling business, right? And they how can they do you suggest for them to get out of the wholesaling and start getting into other businesses that are scalable as soon as possible, or should they still keep the wholesaling business as a ATM, build some cash and then go on to something else? Because sometimes you have too much in your plate that you can't just think straight, and you're just this taking up some time, energy, and you can't go on to the next thing.
I think it's a great question. I think you should know what business you're in and why you're in it. I think wholesaling is a great business for a cash flow business, but take the cash and put it into something more profitable in the future. So milk it for what it is, no more, no less. Don't think you're building a brand in a big company and turning into a $1 billion corporation. Listen, show me one wholesaler who's ever done that. It's not one. There's no one. I can't even do it, and I have a team, like a real team. It's just we tapped out a long time ago. Realized that, I think 15, 18 years ago, I said, let's just use it like it is, and no more, no less. Just make a lot of cash, take the cash, or buy other assets that will grow to a whole nother level. But yeah, no, I think you keep it as is and just be real with yourself of what it's producing and keep cranking.
That's great advice. How about what do you have to say on Open Door? Because it's kind of like a wholesaling, they buy it, but they buy the properties and they just sell them back on the market.
I don't even know what it is. I've never heard of it.
It's they call it a iBuyer out here. So they market, they send postcards out. Okay. Homeowners call them, they get the number that they're willing to pay for the property. They buy the property and list it on the market. Their margins are slimmer. They probably make I've seen, based on what I've seen, 10,000, 15,000 spreads all the time, but it's volume. But they're buying a ton of properties out here in the West Coast.
Well, I think here's one thing I would say is mind your own fucking business. Here's what I mean by that, Frank. Yeah. We don't have a clue what their motto is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like Z-Buyer and all those guys, they can lose money because they're not in the you're assuming they're in the real estate game. They're in the tech game. Anybody on Open Door or anything online, that's a tech play, not a real estate play. That's a scalable business. Real estate is a constraint business. Tech play is a massive, massive growth business. So we're sitting here as investors with our mindset that we have dude, they got such tight spreads, this and that. Well, what the fuck does that mean? Yeah. Okay, maybe as a real estate play it does, but as a tech play, they might get 10x that, right? So their volume has changed. All they're looking to do is how do we do 100 million in real estate? It's not how do we make 100 million. It's how do we do 100 million? They could lose 50 million a year and still be worth multiple X's, right? Because they're gathering data. They're gathering the play. They're gathering, what's working, what's not. We cannot pay attention to what anybody else is doing. I always say mind your own effing business, because the only numbers I know that are real are mine, and I know what I'm doing with them. And the truth is sometimes that's even hard. Because we're developing, we're growing, we're pushing, we're prodding, we're trying new marketing channels. So if we can't even, most people are worried about all these other people's numbers when we can't even manage our own numbers. And that's the truth.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it any better, man. That's a great advice. And you opened up, my mind as well. It's like, they're making these spreads, but it is the data. They're gathering all this data, and it's more than what we think. It's not that the properties, there's more behind it.
Dude, there's always more to the story. Always. Yeah. I mean, Z-Buyer, this is a publicly traded company, right? They talk about their losses. They lose money every year. And everyone's like, why Z-Buyer? Listen, they have a fund, they have a slush fund, and they say we're going to spend $700 million this year. What they make and that has nothing to do with what they're really trying to accomplish. It's bigger than what we're thinking as an investor, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, man. That definitely. So that's definitely great advice. Let me see. I have a couple more questions here that I had prepared for you. Masterminds. You talked about masterminds. You said connect with higher level, people who are building businesses. Any that you recommend? Any specific
Yeah.
name?
Not because I don't think it's what I would recommend or not. I think one, start with where you're at and where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like identify where you're weak and where you're strong, and find a mastermind group that could facilitate both sides, where you can come in with a value and then also leave with value. But more importantly, I can't stress this enough. I don't think you should be in a real estate mastermind if you're in real estate. I think you need to be in business building. I don't think your viewers or any of our people that we talk to have a problem with the tactical details. I think they have a problem with tactical growth of business. How do I hire? How do I fire? When do I hire? When do I fire? How much do I pay them? What's the comp structure? You know, what are we spending on marketing? What's my KPIs? Most people don't even know what a KPI is. Like, if you don't know that, why do you need to learn the next best strategy? It's not going to help you. It's actually going to hurt you.
Yeah.
You know, so you can learn 50 different strategies, but if you don't know how to manage any of them, you're just working.
Yeah.
You know, it makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. And here also, you're a very busy man. You know, I'm very glad that I connected with you, and you talked about building relationships and being able to connect with someone. What advice do you give somebody to be able to network? You know, somebody that wants to go network with a high level individual like yourself. What advice do you give them? Like, how can he approach somebody like you, like yourself?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways to do that now. It's never been easier to approach people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all timing. I think it all comes about coolness factor. I think it comes like, what do you have in it for me kind of thing. Everyone's thinking that, right? Mm-hmm. But kind of like you and I mean, like, first of all, let's say if I'm on Instagram and I post something and you like it and you comment, boom, micro commitment, conversation. I might push a like, I might push a star. The problem is most people are just, they're voyeurs. They're just watching, but not interacting. So I don't know if you're there or not. But if you constantly ping, 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 after the 100th to 200th one, I probably start knowing what you look like, your avatar anyways, right? Yeah. So then you say, man, that podcast show really killed it. I loved it. Thank you. Hey, man, thank you, Frank. I appreciate it, buddy. Boom. Connection number one via text. And then it just evolves, kind of like you and I. We were hanging out, having drinks in Arizona.
I know.
Starts.
Yeah, that day was crazy. We had a couple too many drinks that day. It was fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. But I mean, I think that's how all this stuff works: is you create these connections by being present and being valuable. The truth is, find people. I'm not thinking what's in it for me. I'm more thinking like, wow, that's pretty cool. He's raising his hand. He's saying, what's up? I'm in town. If I can meet up, I will. So find people that you can meet up and connect with, and you could drive those conversations by being interactive for sure.
Okay, definitely, man. How about let's touch up on, that's really great advice. So guys, whoever's listening, make sure you rewind and really pay attention to what market I'm learning right now myself. So make sure you rewind it and go back to what he's saying. Make sure that you're running a business and you're checking, you're not a high paying individual. Make sure you actually have a business running where you can leave and it's still running for the next 30 days. Mark, let's talk about your books. Okay. Why do you write books?
Well, I like writing them because I don't know how to write, so it's challenging in itself. But no, I've done 13 books now, I believe, and one, it's full circle giving is kind of one of our big mottos. All my companies have one of our culture codes is Care 360, so full circle giving at all levels, to yourself, other people, etc. So all my books, 100% of the net proceeds go to charity, right? So if you're sitting there watching this and you invest in a book for yourself, not only are you investing in yourself, you're investing in another layer that you're affecting people's lives you'll never meet 99% of the time, right? So it's a way for me to give back through my influence at a high level, and more importantly, share amazing content and information. Some of my best mentors were people that are no longer here, right? Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man in Babylon, all these different books from forever ago. These could be mentors to you as well through their readings. I never read a book until I was 18, actually, Frank. So, Think and Grow Rich was my first book I read. But, Think and Grow Rich was my book that I read. It changed my life. And I was like, eventually one day I'll create a book. And November 21st, 2006, I came out with my first book. and I've been writing 1 or 2 books every year since then. That's been the goal anyways.
Okay. So pretty much a legacy, leaving something behind so you can keep, inspiring people, motivating people, and just, get your name out there.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about multiplying your voice, right? So this podcast show, we work for 30 minutes, 60 minutes. It could be heard forever. We do a book, we write it once. It could be seen forever. We create an audio, or, to me, I'm more looking for multiplier effects, not addition effects. This is why a lot of people get in trouble. They're just trying to add, 1 deal plus 2 deals equals 2 deals. That's what it is. But if we can work once, we can multiply that. We're still going to do those 1 + 1s. We're looking for these activities throughout the day where we can talk once and it multiplies across the board. And I think everyone should be doing that, Frank, honestly.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Look, and I compare this, based on what you just talked about. You want to look for those things. You're just dropping a lot of gems, things that are going to multiply, not just add one thing or one, this podcast is going to be out there and maybe thousands of people are going to see it later on. It's going to stay there and it's just going to continue to play without taking much of our time. So the books, would you recommend someone write a book?
I always say yes. I mean, I told you a couple of weeks ago, I think I was messaging you. I'm like, dude, you got to write a book. The book is great for many reasons, guys. Number one, credibility. It's great for credibility in the marketplace. Picture this. If you're a wholesaler and the seller's talking to you and they're talking to me and we're a wholesaler, let's say you give them a business card, I give them a book. Guess who they're going to do a business with? Almost guaranteed they're going to do it with the author. There's a lot. It's just authority positioning, And it doesn't have to say anything good in the book. It just, I'm not saying write a shitty book, by the way, but like you hand the book to them, it gives you a little bit of stout, gives you a little bit of power, it gives you a little dominance on the conversation, So you got to understand what you're doing it for, not just to write a book to write a book. I wrote the book initially to be given back to charity. And when I wrote my first book, my business increased by 10% by simply writing a book,
Yeah. Sorry about that. Is that your computer or is that mine?
Yours. Not me.
Yeah, I don't know if it froze, but
I think it's your side, Frank.
Okay, there it goes. But yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what that was. It's just as everything's connected with iCloud and all that stuff, so I hate it sometimes, man. I thought it is on mute, but that's definitely great advice, Mark. Here going into one of our last questions, man. I know you're giving us a little bit more time than we had talked about. What is your why now? What is your why? Your family's taken care of. You're building a lot of legacy. Why do you continue to provide value? You can easily say, you know what, I'm done. I don't have to be on social media. I have a lot of cash flow coming in. What's keeping you going on being out there?
Well, I mean, the simple answer is I haven't done shit. That's the answer. Yeah. I haven't accomplished anything of where my goals are. So a lot of people could see what I'm doing and say, yeah, you could do that, but what does that mean? That's like if someone, dude, honestly, like if someone won the lottery, right, they think that's the solution. That's not the solution. It actually might be the problem. It could be a big problem. So for me, the truth is for where I'm at, where I'm going through our supplement company, our media companies, and all these companies I'm involved in, like for what we're doing and where we're going, we haven't even scratched the surface. We're barely starting, like someone's trying to make how do we make $1 million a minute? Like why does Jeff Bezos keep going? Why is Bill Gates? Like when you understand the true purpose of life it's about ourself, has nothing to do with you or outside influence. It's about internal influence, like of knowing what we're capable of. Once you know what you're capable of, it becomes so addictive, and it's definitely not about the money. Even though money is very important because we're driving that for business, you got to make money in business. That's the only reason to be in business. But like at the end of the day, the impact that we're making with families that work for us first and foremost, and then secondly, the people whose lives we're touching through our products of all levels. I mean, it's very powerful, man.
Okay. That's why I was asking, because, you definitely got a lot of going on. What keeps you going? So it's definitely.
I feel like I have nothing going on, though. Let's just be clear. Like, okay. I'm not saying that to be silly. Like, I literally feel like I have zero going on for where we're going. I mean, I'm asking myself, how do we do so much more? How can we make a bigger impact? As soon as I'm done with this conference call, I'm on another one. Like, to me, it's like, where are we going? Where are we growing? But also, one thing very important I think the viewers should know is for me, my personal lifestyle is more about, I'm a lifestyle guy first. I'm not going into an office. That's not my style. I haven't been going to the office since 2005. So every business decision I'm making is based off of does it affect my lifestyle in any negative way? Because I want to be home with my kids. I want to hang out with my wife. I want to go to the pool, hang out in the back of the pool here in Florida. I'm very family driven first, and then business is second for sure.
That's something, you just said it really well, because that's something we as business owners struggle with. We want to get out of that office. I see you told me one time you pay your lease for like 6 months or a year up front, and then you go and live somewhere and then you go back, right? Yep. So that's something where we all want to be, right? Mm-hmm. What would you, last advice, what would you suggest? How can you unplug yourself from the office?
Well, you got to make a decision. When I left December 31st, 05, it was a big deal. I was scared to death, but I was more afraid of what I knew as opposed to what I didn't know. So what you got to do is say, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. What's the bridge of the gap? How do I get out? And then you got to start creating a conversation with yourself, write down what you want and don't want. And then more importantly, share it with the people in the office so they know, I'm not productive in an office. I know that it's not, I actually go in there. I disrupt people. I say things I shouldn't say. I'm doing stuff I shouldn't do. And I sidetrack people. My team, they know how to handle it. The team is in the office. They're actually cranking along. Most of my other companies, I only have 2 companies that have offices. Everything else is virtual. Okay. Everybody's at their own space. So we definitely have to keep it simple on what we really want as a business owner. I think the reason is, honestly, Frank, most people don't know what they want. Yeah. They might say it here and there, but they don't really abide by it.
Okay. Well, why do you think?
They're whores. They're chasing money. I'm not chasing money. I'm chasing lifestyle. That's a simple answer. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it clearly. The problem is like, I know what I want. I've turned down many, 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 many massive opportunities because they're like, you need an office, you need this, and it's going to be this. I'm like, I'm just not interested, and it can pay amazing numbers, but I'm not chasing the dollar. I'm chasing, I want the full gamut. I don't just want one piece of it. And my family's not worth losing over a couple dollars for sure. That's and I know for me, that's important. It might not be important to some people here that don't have families, which is cool. But like for me, where I'm at in my life, 41 years old, like that's all I care about at this point.
Okay. That's great advice, man. That's definitely great advice. Cause sometimes I remember when I was starting, I could leave the office now, but when I was starting, I was like, man, when is this going to stop? Every day in the office, Monday through Saturday. And you just, you want the lifestyle. You want to be able to have freedom, like you go and stay somewhere for 6, 12 months. But
you could listen, but I'm working every day, like 7 days a week. I don't need to be in the office to say that. By the way, being in the office is the mule mentality. Like, remember in school when you sit there and you watch even maybe someone at their job watching us, it's 3:00 on Friday. You can't leave till 4:30. Your shit's been done since noon and you're just looking at the clock.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a mule. I don't need to be in the office. I can go out and hang out my country club and put deals together, and why I'm drinking beer or eating wings when I shouldn't be eating them, so it's like, what are you doing with your time? It's not a matter how many hours you work. It's how you work your hours that you're working, so I'm by the way, you and I, we're 24/7 on, right? Like we hear a conversation 30 tables down talking about real estate. We're talking to them in 3 minutes. Yeah. Just what we do. So we don't have that thing that turns that off. But like from an office standpoint, I don't need to be in an office to work to produce. The truth is I actually produce from afar, and everyone's different here. So I think you just got to know your strength and weakness on that. But I'm disciplined too, Frank. I'm disciplined. I'm up early. I'm getting my workouts done. I'm doing my work, and I get my jobs done. So I think if you're not disciplined, an office might be a good place for you.
Okay. So this starts there, and then you just start, working on it, right?
It evolves, man. Me traveling the world for 7 years helped that. It forced me to create constraint where I actually had to produce to be able to travel more. And I like traveling so much, I had to produce even more. And it forced me to, I talk about that in the 10-minute business owner book we have. But 10 minutes business owner, you're on an island for 24 hours a day, but you only have 10 minutes a day to talk to people on a global phone. Who do you talk? What do you talk about? And what information do you need? And you create such a massive constraint, you actually realize what's really important, what you're trying to do in your vision.
That's great, Mark. Well, Mark, believe it or not, I found a lot of value off of it. Just everything you're saying makes sense. Sometimes it definitely makes sense. I connected very well. I hope our viewers did too. And it's a pleasure to have you here on board. You know, like I told you, I know we went past the time. You want to mention your social media, your books, anywhere where the podcast?
No, man, feel free to check me out at Mark Evans DM across all social media platforms, Mark Evans DM. And then on the podcast show, I have a podcast show out, Making of a DM. We haven't really started promoting out a whole heavy, but it's about 15 shows deep. We're getting massive feedback just from like natural, connections of people. But it's a very hard-hitting lifestyle business owner podcast shows. It's definitely not for, someone that doesn't, like a cuss word here and there. I get a little excited sometimes, if you can't tell. But it's not. It's really, again, it's a giving back piece that I'm super excited to be doing and growing with people on.
That's great. There you heard it, guys. Make sure to check it out. I'm going to include it in the description. Mark, it's a pleasure to have you here. You're really busy. And again, thank you for giving me the time. Guys, don't forget to comment, share, and, comment and share this video. Whoever comments and shares, I'm going to pick someone and give it a 15-minute consultation call to be able to help them expand their business, guys. So don't forget to share this, call, podcast, YouTube, whatever you guys want to call it. Make sure you share it, guys. Mark, thanks again, man.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for having me. Good luck, guys.
Talk to you soon.
Later.